Hey, welcome to today's Piece of Peace. I started off today with some gratitudes and went down for dreaming last night. Love that I dream. That means I'm sleeping well. Your word over my sleep. I found these apps that you can hear the spoken word, just God's Bible read to you as you sleep, and it's just amazing. Grateful for coffee and collagen. Your word and time with you, the prophetic worship conference I got to attend, the intensive that I got to attend with Rick Pino, just amazing. Can't say enough about that. Had gratitude for exercise. My sweet son went walking with me today. I was so happy to have that. Clean water to drink, organic and healthy food, peace that I feel, my children, my husband, my family. I asked him, I had these dreams. I said, is there any meaning to these? And I sort of wrote out a little bit of what I had watched. They were kind of strange. Like my husband was with me and I was in the back end of this like open car or I don't know if it was a truck or what it was, but he was out in the road. And it was strange because there's like these wolves coming in from all over. And it interfaced between being wolves and being men that were intent on evil. And I was sitting in the back of this open car with my husband down on the road. And then it was just like all I could do to worship. It was just like, as I played my guitar and sang my praise to God, it was like those words coming out were like fighting off these wolves or fighting off these men that had evil intent. And it was super intense. And I can remember just playing like I was just like that was my weapon, like it was my sword, like it was how I was defending my husband. It was so profound. It was so profound, and I just asked him, I said, here's my dream, and just waited to hear what he said. He said, Janelle, your worship of me has incredible power. Not just my worship, our worship has incredible power to ward off the enemy, legions of demons, principalities, dark forces, enemy armies, and all evil. And then he brought my memory to a couple things that I went through in Uganda, in Gulu. When we were there, there was men who came in with guns, and I can remember being very, very frightened. I can remember them taking our leaders while we were there, and I can remember when they were gone for 5 hours. I brought a little small team with me inside of this complex. It's not really an outdoor place. It kind of was outdoor, not indoor place. It had like some cement walls around it. We were in a village in Gulu, had the clay round huts with the thatchet roofs, like pointy thatchet roofs. And when I brought the worshipers in after they had taken our leaders, we just started to worship God. And God brought that memory back to me, as if I had known then that was the way I needed to war. And our leaders were let go. And actually, some of the men that had taken them away came to know Jesus at that season, that time. He reminded me again when we were in Kampala, capital city, and one of our team members had a traumatic experience. And most of the team were kind of riding in this vehicle to get to where we were going to be doing ministry that day. And most of the team was like, maybe we ought to just go back, and because this is really traumatic. And I can remember rising up and saying no, because that's exactly what the enemy would want us to do. And that this person was being cared for by other team members, and that we still needed to keep going. And when we worshiped that day, it was incredibly powerful. And the Lord said to me again in Kampala, when your team member, he says, you rose up like David, one after my own heart, and led the team into powerful worship that morning, and it changed the atmosphere. Powerful ministry that day. He said to me in very bold letters, "Your worship of me is going to change the atmosphere." He's been calling me to bring a team out over, we have a body of water behind our house with houses sort of surround it, and we have this fire pit area, patio area, and he's been calling me to put together a team so that we can put worship into the open air. And I've finding my musicians, but I have not yet initiated all the administrative stuff that goes with that. And so he says, all this has been preparation. The conference that I've been in, what he's been teaching me about in warfare and through worship, he says to me, write the email, Janelle, and call your sound guy and include the vocalist. And it was just like, whew. He said that my dream is warring. Yeah, and when we worship, this is what's going to happen. That the enemy that has been attacking many is going to be warded off and taken down as we worship our King. So I would like to encourage you, get outside. Worship can be just about anything. Worship can be you serving your family with a joyful heart. That's worshiping God. Being in prayer, honoring what he's asking you to do, so you do it. And that is worship. Taking your money and giving it to whom he says to give it to, that is worship. But when we worship in our praise, because he inhabits our praise, and he's enthroned in our praise, that is when we open that conduit to on earth as it is in heaven. When we choose to worship in all those ways, we're opening up on earth as it is in heaven. It's been a really big thing. So today, we're brought to Psalm 86. So let's look at that. This is written by Allison Kita. Bright spots in bleak places, she says. So Psalm 86, we're going to start in verse 1 and go through 13. So, hear, O Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Guard my life, for I am devoted to you. You are my God. Save your servant who trusts in you. Have mercy on me, O Lord, for I call to you all day long. Bring joy to your servant, for to you, O Lord, I lift my soul. You are forgiving and good, O Lord, abounding in love to all who call on you. Hear my prayer, O Lord. Listen to my cry for mercy. In the day of my trouble I will call to you, for you will answer me. Among the gods there is none like you. O Lord, among the gods there is no one like you, O Lord. No deeds can compare to yours. All the nations you have made will come and worship before you, O Lord. They will bring glory to your name. For you are great and do marvelous deeds. You alone are God. Teach me your way, O Lord, and I will walk in your truth. And this is the part that stuck out to me in verse 11. Give me an undivided heart, that I may fear your name. I will praise you, O Lord, my God, with all my heart. I will glorify your name forever. For great is your love toward me. You have delivered me from the depths of the grave. I love that. I will praise you, O Lord, my God, with all my heart. I will glorify your name forever. This is truly his calling on my life. For great is your love toward me, and you have delivered me from the depths of the grave. Allison goes on to speak bright spots in bleak places. When my husband and I were exploring a small, rugged corner of the state of Wyoming, I spied a sunflower. In a rocky, dry place where sagebrush, nettles, prickly cactus, and other scraggly plants grew. It wasn't as tall as the domestic sunflower, but it was just as bright. And I felt cheered. This unexpected bright spot in rough terrain reminded me of how Life, even for the believer in Jesus, can seem barren and cheerless. I can remember speaking to some people that I mentor. I'm going to take a break from what she's saying to say this, but I know that people that have gone through very dry and weary land, and like just feeling parched and really wishing they'd hear the voice of God, or felt like abandoned, or things have been really, really rough. And I just thought, well, I want you to think about not missing the desert flowers along the way. Desert flowers are incredibly unique. They have incredible color to them. They're super hardy. They have to live through the toughest of climate and just circumstances, yet they survive and they're beautiful. And I often say to people, don't miss the desert flowers. When you're in a hard season, don't miss the things that he's putting next to you that are incredibly beautiful. And as she's saying here, it wasn't as tall as the domestic flowers, but it was just as bright, and I felt cheered. This unexpected bright spot in a rough terrain reminded me of how life, even for the believer in Jesus, can seem barren and cheerless. She says troubles can seem insurmountable, and like the cries of the psalmist David, our prayers sometimes seem to go unheeded. Hear me, Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Like him, we too long for joy. But David goes on to declare that we serve a faithful, compassionate, and gracious God who abounds in love for all who call on him. He does answer. Sometimes in bleak places, God sends a sunflower, an encouraging word or note from a friend, a comforting verse or Bible passage, a beautiful sunrise that helps us to move forward with a lighter step, with hope. Even as we await the day we experience God's deliverance out of our difficulty, may we join the psalmist in proclaiming, "You are great and do marvelous deeds. You alone are God." Even in this season with COVID and all the crazy around it, I don't know what else to call it. It's been difficult. Even as we wait the day we experience God's deliverance out of our difficulty, may we join the psalmist in proclaiming, "You are great and do marvelous deeds. You alone are God." Let us not miss the desert flowers in these days, you guys. I know it's not pleasant. I know it's hard. It is hard. It is hard to keep your mindset on him. It is hard to make sure your spoken word is something that's bringing life, and that you're putting your hands to just his actions. It is hard to maintain hope when things can be rough. You are great and do marvelous deeds. You alone are God. Don't miss the desert flowers in this time. He's showing them to us. Look for them. Her charge was this: out of what difficult place has God delivered you? During that time, did you experience my sunflowers? What helped you? What helped you persevere? And her prayer was this: loving God, thank you for being compassionate and gracious. Help me to remember how you've been faithful and answered my prayers in the past and will again in the future. And in the meantime, our weapon is worship. Until his coming, our weapon is worship. It is changing the atmosphere. Keep singing to him. Keep doing what you're doing to his glory. Don't feel hopeless, because he's got a purpose and things are moving forward more than we can see, more than we know. But here's our Jesus Calling. Sarah Young's book kind of looks like this. And you can order that online or download her app on your smartphone. She writes from the perspective of God speaking to us. And here's what it says for today. Wait with me for a while. I have much to tell you. You are walking along the path I have chosen for you. It is both a privilege and a perilous way, experiencing my glorious presence and heralding that reality to others. Worship. Worship. Sometimes you feel presumptuous to be carrying out such an assignment. Do not worry about what other people think of you. The work I am doing in you is hidden at first, but eventually blossoms will burst forth and abundant fruit will be born. Stay on the path of life with me. Trust me wholeheartedly, letting my spirit fill you with joy and peace. I love how he says, the work I'm doing in you is hidden at first, but eventually blossoms will burst forth. Reminds me of those desert flowers. And the fact that he says, I have chosen, or it is both a privileged and a perilous way, experiencing my glorious presence and heralding that reality to others. That worship piece is huge. I can't say enough. But that is today's piece of peace. God bless you.